America's best days are yet to come. That's because conservatives like you know and live the values our great country was built on. The Heritage Foundation exists to make sure your voice is heard in the D.C. swamp each day, shining the light on a bright future. The Heritage Foundation stands for your values and won't give up the fight because they know you never will. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
I'm Mark Levin, and this is a comeback, finally, after 2 weeks. I've been chomping at the bit. We do need a little break now and then to get our energy up and to step back and take note of what's going on around us. I'm fit. I'm ready for the fight. I want to thank you. I'm blessed by all of you out there, our wonderful affiliates, Satellite, and all the rest. Thank you. I hope you had a fantastic Christmas, a fantastic New Year's, and here we are, stunning 2026. And there's a great deal to talk about, and I am ready. I'm ready. But before we do, I want to make an announcement to you, something that I think is very exciting. And, of course, I hope you'll participate in this. We're going to expand our reach and our platform into areas where we're not as represented as I feel we need to be. We're going to do this in a way where we actually muscle up our existing platforms in talk radio, on TV, and so forth. Now, during the last few weeks, my crew, in the last few weeks, I've been working on a special project that I want to share with you, and I'm very excited about. First, to be clear, I'm committed to and have always been committed to talk radio. I grew up with it, I love it, and I want it to grow and expand. I want to emphasize this. This program has been airing for nearly a quarter of a century, and I'm extraordinarily appreciative of Westwood One, my syndication partner, and all of our wonderful affiliates, all of which are outstanding. And the same goes for all the radio broadcast companies that carry this program. We're heard on over 400 stations throughout the country. Big, strong stations that can actually be heard. I want to thank SiriusXM Satellite, a terrific partner that has run this show for years, and they run it live. They're great. But what we're working on, and hope to launch in the next few weeks if possible, and I'm committed to this sooner than later, is a brand new independent video podcast. The initial plan is 4 days a week, about 30 minutes each, to be run in the morning, subject to modification, but that's my intention and that's the plan, and I'm working on it hard. In fact, I've been working on it for 2 weeks. And we're well on the way to doing exactly that. Now, why would I do this? I already have this wonderful nationally syndicated radio program, which I said is the mothership and will always be the mothership of what we do here. And I believe it's better and stronger than ever. And yet I have every intention of continuing to work hard and focus like a laser on this radio program. And there's Life, Liberty, and Levin on Fox, my top-rated cable show that runs on Saturday and Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern. And given the demand for that program, I, of course, have no intention of leaving that. In fact, I have new plans to continue to improve that show as well. 2026 is very exciting. It's going to be terrific. The reason for a video podcast is simple. This year marks the 250th anniversary of the founding of our great country. And I want to do everything humanly possible to spread the word, to create incitement and enthusiasm for this country, to provide more real history, to talk about real American heroes, our founders, our founding documents, and do all I can. Because it's not being taught, it's not being promoted, it's not being discussed in the mass media, especially among young people who are now being subjected to brainwash, who are now, in many cases, not all for sure, being turned against us. We have an enemy within. The big teachers' unions, the Marxist Islamists, the radical neo-fascist woke right, and others, who are filling our fellow citizens, especially younger people, with poison and self-hate about this country. And I must admit, I am convinced that video podcasting is taking a very dark and hateful turn. I've spent the last few weeks watching things that I never thought I'd see before. That's not to say there aren't outstanding podcasters. There certainly are. But I'm talking about those who are building audience with vile and racist and bigoted and, quite frankly, filthy shows filled with filthy language. I want to counter this as well, especially because I fear, again, for the next generation, that they are getting influenced by this. There will be no F words. There will be no smoking dope. There will be no fake historians and fake economists, no weird comics. And most of all, we will demonstrate our love for this country. I will not abandon capitalism for collectivist BS or join the woe is me stereotypes and propaganda when addressing challenges we all face, including young people and including young men. I will discuss how anyone can make it in this wonderful country, thanks to freedom and capitalism and our Constitution, hard work, commitment, using your God-given smarts and talent. That's what we're about. And I will explain that success is a good thing. Merit is a good thing. And we are a great people, and that's why we are a great people. I've always had faith in you, Mr. and Mrs. America. I know we, the people, crave real knowledge, information, and learning. I hear this everywhere I go, including during my book signings. There are fewer and fewer places where this is taking place. And we patriots, we constitutional conservatives, we must take back the narrative. We must engage in real debates and spread the word of Americanism. No, I will not debate and give any other platform of legitimacy to Nazis, to white supremacists, to racists, to bigots, to foreign agents, that is, individuals who are on government payrolls of other countries. They seek attention. They seek platforming. They're not going to get it from me. This will not be effectively the Jerry Springer show as a video podcast or the old Geraldo show and so forth. You and I have self-respect and standards and ethics. This isn't cowardice. This is about controlling our own agenda, advancing our principles, beliefs, and values. Not giving grifters and worse opportunities to poison the well. This will in no way detract from this radio show. In fact, the video podcast will also highlight my radio show and bring additional listeners as we spread the word on more platforms. One is not in competition with the other, but rather They work in conjunction with and support each other. And I'm in a unique position to do this. I'm in a unique position to do this. This is the second biggest syndicated national radio program in America, in fact, on the planet. Despite what Talk Magazine has to say and all the other phonies with their lists. Ignore their lists. But this requires building another infrastructure, ensuring we have the right equipment and all the rest. But it's being done. It's being done on a minimal budget. There will be no investors but me, just me. No billionaires, no foreign countries involved in any way. I've always prided myself on my independence. And this project will be no different. Now, I will give you the details when we're ready to go. The name of the show is Liberty's Voice. Liberty's Voice. Because that's what we're about here. Liberty. Individual liberty. I'm very excited about this. Each platform has its benefits, has its opportunities. But I'm uniquely situated because of all the work you and I have done over the decades to expand our radio presence, to expand on our podcast, to expand on TV. And I intend to do it all because of you. Because of you. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Folks, I have a question for you. Do you believe America's best days are still ahead? With the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence coming up in less than a year, my friends at the Heritage Foundation are taking stock of the current situation, and they need your input. They've launched a survey on America's future to gauge how Americans feel right now about where we are as a nation and where we're headed in the next 250 years. You know, for decades, your American values have been under attack, but now, with President Trump's administration in office, we have an opportunity to turn the tide and usher in a new golden age for America. But the Heritage Foundation needs to hear from you. What policies do patriots like you most care about? What do you believe are the defining principles of America? What legacy do you believe we should pass on to the next generation? Please visit heritage.org/Levin today and share your feedback and help shape the future of America. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation. I don't know how anybody could be a Democrat anymore. The word salad excuses, pathetic. Your party stands by genocidal maniacs, Marxists, Islamists. Your party hates freedom, democracy, republicanism. Your party hates America. Your party hates capitalism. The American citizenry, which you seek to replace. I got plenty to say about that and them. I spent 2 weeks on the internet intensely. It's not my home. Watching the podcasters, the phony influencers, people who are posting. I want to talk about that later. And I want them to know something. Those of you who continue to trash our country and the American people, those of you who continue to spread racism and bigotry, those of you who continue to bash Christians and Jews, those of you who continue to trash, our commander-in-chief, I'm at war with you. You mean nothing to me. Have had worse challenges than low IQ comics, Carlson, frauds like Bannon, chameleons like Kelly, and the list is a long one. That is not why I'm doing a new podcast. I'm going to go over their heads. I'm going to go around them. I'm going to go around, under them. If people are interested, they will watch and listen. If they're not, they won't. We're going to offer people an opportunity to celebrate our nation, to celebrate our principles, to spread the word. To spread the word. There's way too much garbage on the internet. Way too much garbage in podcasting, phony influencers who literally represent nobody, which Donald Trump has demonstrated yet again, and I'll get into that in a moment. This is our 250th anniversary. It's really our 251st, but who's counting? We're going to have fun. It's going to be intriguing. It's going to be entertaining, very interesting. Open to people of all ages, people of all persuasions and backgrounds. I will not platform psychos, Nazis, bigots. There's enough of that already. Now let's begin to talk about Venezuela and work our way back. Venezuela is not only the biggest drug narco operation on the face of the earth, second only communist China, but it was becoming a base in our hemisphere for China, for Russia, for North Korea and Iran. An intelligence base, soon to be a military base. They nationalized our oil companies. Maduro was a nobody, plucked out of obscurity by Hugo Chavez. Hugo Chavez ran for office as a liberal Democrat, much like Castro. But he was obviously a Stalinist, much like Castro. Maduro had opponents imprisoned and assassinated, people tortured, hundreds of thousands of people left Venezuela. He emptied his prisons and his psych wards, as the president has said, sending them and his international gang members to our country. His last meeting was with Communist China as they were plotting their next event against the United States. What Donald Trump did was the action of a great leader, a statesman, a commander-in-chief. You can see all the Lilliputians, all the cockroaches. And now the light has shown us who they are for the 4,000th time. Rooting for the enemy. Carlson rooting for the enemy. Owens rooting for the enemy. That whole cabal. Just like the Democrat Party, as an institution and individually, rooting for the enemy. The Marxist Islamists, now with their base in the biggest city, the most important financial capital in the world, rooting for the enemy. Protesters funded by Communist China and other enemy nations, taking to the streets. Protesters funded by Soros. We need to stand up to this. And we will. And we have a president of the United States who's truly a historic and iconic figure. And if we're not able to push back and get this under control in the next 3 years under Donald Trump, it's going to be very, very difficult to get it done at all. More when I return. We're coming upon the 250th birthday of the United States, and it has me thinking, what will America look like 250 years from now? My friends at the Heritage Foundation want to know what you think. What policies should America prioritize? What principles should carry us into the decades ahead? As America enters a new golden age, Heritage recognizes that this is the time to take stock and to be intentional about how we shape the future of America. And they can't do it without your input. So please go to heritage.org/LEVIN and let them know what you think is important. Without patriots like you stepping up and speaking up for what you believe in, America as we know it can't survive for another 250 years. Please go to heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin. Take the survey on America's future. This survey takes less than 10 minutes to complete, but it is critical for making sure that the America we pass on to future generations is an America we're proud of. Go to heritage.org/Levin today. That's heritage.org/Levin. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Mark Levin, America's passionately cerebral voice. Talk with that voice now. 877-381-3811.
I understand. Let me say briefly, and I'd like to move into a few things here, that I am uniquely a target of the Marxist Islamists and the neo-fascist woke right. In May, I decided, as you know on this radio, all you Levinites, to confront them and take them on. At that time, the main issue was Iran. It was not just Iran, as I pointed out. It's much more. Much more. This is a cabal, the neo-fascist woke right, that conducts itself like the Marxist Islamist left. Same propaganda techniques, same demagoguery, same pretense that they stand for the people. Except the neo-fascist woke right pretends to be one of us, to be one of you. They're none of us. They're not me. Familiar faces who gain notoriety in different jobs that they couldn't hold for the most part. For a variety of reasons, ideological, financial, and others. They've turned into modern-day Tokyo Roses, modern-day Benedict Arnolds. The president has rejected them. The president essentially ignores them by his actions. And when I began this battle with these people, there was nobody else. I would get calls from people who are now engaging, and I am thrilled. The more the merrier. Telling me, keep it up. And I would say to them, I am. Where are you? So in the last 9 months, we've achieved a lot here on this radio program in particular. I think we've opened a lot of eyes. We've grown a lot of spines in this industry and in other parts of the communication world where people now feel they can speak out, where they can name names. It was simply not that way in May and June. And you, Mr. and Mrs. America, you've stood tall. You understand. You're smart. You're knowledgeable. That's why I'm blessed. I've always said you're the smartest of audiences, the smartest of the smartest. I was a leader in the Reagan Revolution, the Tea Party movement, Convention of States, and I like to feel I'm a leader in defending this president. But most of all, I will always remember what Rush told me. I knew it, but he emphasized it. He said, look, Mark, the key is this. Treat your audience with respect. Never take your audience for granted. I've lived by those words, and I always will. The neo-fascist woke right, they think you're stupid. They try to manipulate you. They use slogans. They use Solinsky tactics, targeting people, personalizing it, attacking them. They use phony experts and then complain when you use real experts. It's okay. We're on to them. You're on to them. They're going to unravel. They're already started. Donald Trump is a great president. I've told you this before, and you know it already. He's an iconic, historic figure. He decides what policies he will institute. He's not an isolationist. He's not a socialist. He's not a bigot. He's not a Christian basher. He's not a Jew hater. He's not a racist. He's not a pacifist. He's a red-blooded American. I want you to think about this. Ronald Reagan freed the people of the Soviet Union, all those captive nations, hundreds and hundreds of millions of people. Donald Trump is doing the same thing in his second term. He backed Israel to the hilt to try and destroy the terrorists who've attacked the United States of America, New York, 25 years ago. And look who they elected now. Donald Trump's not an interventionist. He's not a neocon. He's not all these things, these phrases the sloganeers use, the Alinsky neo-fascists use. He's a red-blooded American. He spent an entire week with Benjamin Netanyahu. His fifth or sixth meeting. Why? Because he believes in the Holy Land. Because he's a man of faith. He's a Christian. Why else? Because business deals aside, he understands without Israel in the Middle East, the dangers in the United States when the terrorists are focused solely and uniquely on the United States, and you and me, Mr. and Mrs. America, become virtually impossible to deal with. He understands that the people of Iran who are protesting now, some of the women being dragged off the streets, some of the injured being dragged out of hospitals, he understands that that regime is a death cult aligned with China, Russia, North Korea, and formerly with the genocidal maniac who ran Venezuela. This is common sense. You see, our enemies are not isolationists. They're not appeasers. They're not peacemakers. They're evil. And reality is reality. Reality is reality. I want to talk about some of this with you. Coincidentally enough, on Friday night, I was at Mar-a-Lago, invited to have dinner there by a friend of mine. And the president heard that I was going to have dinner there, and he told my friend Sergio, "Will you guys come to my table?" And so we had dinner with the president, and he has me sit directly to his right. And I will say this, Christmas before last, at his club in Florida, the president was sitting there, I was to his right, and Charlie Kirk was to my right. We have people who keep talking about the relationships with Charlie Kirk. We have people who keep saying what Charlie Kirk would say. We have people who keep using Charlie Kirk to advance their own careers. I have done everything humanly possible to do none of that. And he was a dear friend of mine. Sat right next to me. And we had discussions about things that are nobody's business. And so Friday night, I sat next to the president. This is a remarkable man. Very kind, very decent. A lot of fun. Smart as hell. I wish you could all see him in his private moments. And Marco Rubio was there, Director of National Intelligence. John Ratcliffe was there. And little did I know, or did we know, what was about to occur. And a good talk with both of those men as well. Others were there, cabinet secretaries. Secretary of Commerce is a remarkable man. Secretary of Interior, same thing. And others. I left at 10:30. And then you saw what happened, to everybody's surprise. And to those of you who are patriots, I bet you were happy, excited, and thankful. And thankful. I want to talk about the facts, about declarations of war, because this is really what I do. I want to talk about the facts, about the Monroe Doctrine, now the Donroe Doctrine. We're going to take a short break, and I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Folks, I have a question for you. Do you believe America's best days are still ahead? With the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence coming up in less than a year, my friends at the Heritage Foundation are taking stock of the current situation, and they need your input. They've launched a survey on America's future to gauge how Americans feel right now about where we are as a nation and where we're headed in the next 250 years. You know, for decades, your American values have been under attack, but now, with President Trump's administration in office, we have an opportunity to turn the tide and usher in a new golden age for America. But the Heritage Foundation needs to hear from you. What policies do patriots like you most care about? What do you believe are the defining principles of America? What legacy do you believe we should pass on to the next generation? Please visit heritage.org/Levin today and share your feedback and help shape the future of America. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation. By the time we're done, you're going to know more about this aspect of the Constitution, the Declaration of War, the history of it, and all these morons on TV saying, hey, we needed a declaration of war. Let's go through this. Declarations of war. Declarations of war. Sounds so simple, doesn't it, Mr. Producer? What's the big deal? Declaration of war. First of all, what's the problem in modern times with Congress being required to do a declaration of war before military action can be taken? Does it mean any military action? Does it mean every military action? What's the difference between a war and a non-war? Well, of course, we can make definitions, right? Constitution doesn't provide any, though. Now, today, a declaration of war, if it were to be given before we would act, as a pretext, as a precondition for acting, you'd be giving the enemy time and opportunity. Wouldn't you? Time and opportunity. Now, declarations of war, there hasn't been one since 1942. There have been 11 declarations of war, 6 of them having to deal with World War II. In our entire history. The War of 1812, when the British were imprisoning our sailors. The Mexican-American War in 1846 under a great president, James Polk, when there were military clashes taking place on the border. 1898, the Spanish-American War, because they sunk the USS Maine in Havana Harbor, you may recall, 1898. 1917, World War I. We declared war on Germany and then Austria-Hungary. So, the War of 1812, we declared war on Britain. The Mexican-American War in 1846, we declared war on Mexico. 1898, the Spanish-American War, we declared war on Spain. 1917, we declared war on 2 countries, Germany and Austria-Hungary. Then comes World War II. The day after we were attacked on Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941, on December 8th, we declared war against Japan. When we declared war against Japan, Germany and Italy declared war against us, and we reciprocated. We declared war on Germany and Italy. Those are three. And as the war went on, 1942, we declared war on Bulgaria, Hungary, and Romania. 6 declarations during World War II when we were in the middle of a war. 5 before that. Those are the 11 declarations of war. That's it. No declaration in the Korean War, the Vietnam War, or any of the rest of it. Now, why should we bend over backwards? Why should we bend over backwards to say that you require a declaration of war to make war? After the break, you will be among the few who understand that the word make was replaced with the word declare. There's also another problem. The size of Congress. You have 535 members of Congress. I'd say about 80% of whom are prima donnas, maybe more. Our first Congress had 65 representatives and 26 senators. In other words, it was a workable group. 435 members of the House, 100 members of the Senate is absolutely unwieldy when it comes to matters of determining when to go to war. So, that's absurd. You know, at the Declaration of Independence, the Second Continental Congress, we had around 60 delegates, 56 in the end, who would later sign it. 56. Constitutional Convention, 55 delegates were sent, 39 signed the Constitution. Today, 535 members of Congress. Completely different time and situation. And today we have nuclear weapons, hypersonic missiles, large standing armies, nuclear submarines, jets that fly at the speed of sound, bombers that can't be seen in the sky. So we're going to wait, you see, for Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer. We're going to wait to have a debate. That would be our undoing. That would be our death. Congress has the power of the purse and the power to impeach, the two big powers it has to stop anything it wants to stop if it can. But it requires a consensus, which they don't have, which is my point. How many wars do we want to actually lose if we interpret the Constitution in a way that it's not intended to be interpreted, but in the way that the Democrats, phony libertarians, pseudo-constitutionalists, the Marxist Islamists, the isolationist neo-fascists want us to interpret it? You and me, we're the constitutional conservatives. Now, what is it about this word declaration versus this word make? What do we know about that? We know a lot. I'll be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Welcome back. I'm Mark Levin. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. The FBI's loss is our gain. Dan Bongino has been a dear friend. He and his wife, and me and my wife, we've been friends for some years now. And he's been a fantastic deputy director of the FBI, and now he can speak for himself with the peanut gallery attacking him when they knew he couldn't respond. I suspect he'll respond now, Mr. Producer. But it's always good to have another general in the ranks here because, I'll tell you, folks, I'm rolling. This is going to be It's going to be fantastic. And I'm very excited about this radio program, the energy, and the 250th anniversary. I'm very excited about my Fox program, and I am very, very excited about this new video podcast that we will launch, because I view them all as integrated. One developing, expanding, growing the other. And I'm uniquely positioned to do it. Uniquely positioned to do it. And that's what we're going to do. And those of us who believe in constitutional conservatism, we're not going anywhere. The ratfinks, the frauds, the phonies, the grifters, the bigots, the racists, the Christian bashers, the Jew haters, they're the ones that we're going to go somewhere. They may get headlines off of media websites. I don't much care. I want to talk to you. I want to continue our little discussion here about this clause in the Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 2, declaring war versus making war. Constitution.congress.gov, and you can find it elsewhere. I have over the years, obviously, but it's very succinct and well put. It says in the Constitution, Congress shall have the power to declare war, grant letters of marque and reprisal, and make rules concerning captures of land and water. Of course, there's another provision in the Constitution that talks about the President of the United States being in charge of foreign policy. Some people say this conflicts. Somewhat it does. But it doesn't just lean towards the president's power to make war. It is overwhelmingly the case. In its report containing the first full draft of the Constitution, considered at the Constitutional Convention, the Committee of Detail that was going through all the wording and the provisions and so forth, well, they included a provision granting to Congress the power to make war. M-A-K-E. The power to make war. Now listen, you're going to be the first folks to hear this, because it's going to be echoed and regurgitated within 30 minutes, so stick with me. The assignment of this power to Congress and the clause's phrasing, which differed from its counterpart in the Articles of Confederation, prompted a debate among the delegates. Charles Pinckney of South Carolina, who had a lot of influence, made the first remarks about the clause. He objected to including the House of Representatives in the power to make war because he believed it to be too large a body for the quick deliberations necessary for the task. It had 64, or was going to have 65 members at the time. Wasn't that large, but he even said that's too large. The Senate alone, he argued, would be the better option because it would be more acquainted with foreign affairs and most capable of proper resolutions. Now remember, the Senate at that time was chosen by the legislatures of the states. Pinckney also argued that because both small and large states face existential risks from war, the composition of the Senate, with its equal representation of the states, made it more appropriate body. Now, there was a lot of back and forth on this. Pierce Butler of South Carolina, he voiced an objection to either chamber of Congress being assigned the power to make war. Butler advocated instead for vesting the power in the president, who will have all requisite qualities and will not make war, but when the nation supports it. Now, why did he believe that? Because the president would be the only official of the United States, and the vice president, who had almost no power, but the president, elected by all the people. Now, after Butler's comment, James Madison and Eldridge Gerry, Madison of Virginia and Gerry of Massachusetts, as you know, they moved to change the clause to give Congress the power to declare war. So they removed the make war to declare war. According to Madison's notes, a change was intended to leave the executive the power to repel sudden attacks. Roger Sherman, spoke in opposition to the motion, contending that substituting the term declare would narrow congressional authority too significantly. Excuse me. Sherman argued that the original terms make better captured the formulation in which the president was empowered to repel attacks, but he could not commence war on his own. Well, he lost. His position was rejected because they take the word make out and they replace it with declare. Now, Elridge Gerry, member of Massachusetts, he objected to Butler of South Carolina earlier raised proposition the clause should be shifted to a presidential power. Gerry remarked that he never expected to hear in a Republican motion to empower the executive alone to declare war Oliver Ellsworth of Connecticut. He highlighted the distinction between making war and making peace. To Ellsworth, it should be more easy to get out of war than into it. George Mason, the great George Mason, he responded to the several lines of argument that had been raised in response to the motion to substitute declare for make. And Mason maintained the president could not be trusted with the power of war and that the Senate was not so constructed as to be entitled to it. Mason endorsed the view that the Constitution should facilitate the process of making peace. And he concluded by stating that he preferred the phrase declare war over make war. So even though Mason didn't want all the power in the presidency, and therefore he didn't say it should be in the Constitution for the president, yes, Congress should not have the power to make war. The delegates then voted on the motion to substitute declare for make. 2 rounds of votes were held, and although the records of the Constitutional Convention provide inconsistent accounts of the first round of voting, obviously we know how the second round turned out. The motion to replace make with declare on the second vote, 8 states voted in favor and 1 against of the delegates who were present, 8-1, to specifically remove from the draft that Congress shall make rather than declare war. Could it be clearer now that I've explained it, Mr. Producer? And so you have Democrats, you have pseudo-conservatives, libertarians, of course, Trump haters, running around saying, Congress has to declare war. Congress has to declare war. These would be the same mental midgets running around on birthright citizenship. They may get their day in the Supreme Court, but if the Supreme Court defies the Constitution, shame on them. Shame on them. You now know more during this first segment of this hour and the last segment of the last hour about the declaration of war provision in the Constitution than virtually every senator and congressman in the Capitol. Virtually every media figure, virtually every phony judicial expert, constitutional expert, professor. You know more than they know. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
If your credit card balance is freaking you out after all the holiday spending, I have something that can save you money right now. Cut your cell phone bill in half by switching to Pure Talk Saver Plan. Just $20 a month for unlimited talk, text, and 3 gigs of high-speed data on Pure Talk's super-fast nationwide 5G network. As a veteran-led company that cares about giving back to those who serve, if you're active or former military or a first responder, you'll save an additional 20% every single month. The easiest way to free up cash flow is to reduce your monthly recurring bills. Start with cutting overpriced wireless and switching to my wireless company. Go to puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and make the switch today in as little as 10 minutes. Again, talk, text, and data just $20 a month. That's puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Pure Talk is America's wireless company. In our hemisphere alone, Reagan, 1983, Grenada. No declaration of war. Preposterous. Bush 41, 1989, Panama. Now Trump 2026, Venezuela. We've literally had hundreds and hundreds of military actions, some big, like Korea and Vietnam, the Iraq War. You can name many of them where there have been no declarations of war. Should all those presidents have been impeached? It's, as I said, it's like birthright citizenship. Things get in the public square, they're inaccurate, and yet they stay there because the left wants them to stay there. And they regurgitate it. And it's over and over and over again. So, hey, yeah, what about a declaration of war? What about it? Meanwhile, the people who hate the Constitution, who've been telling us for years that it is a white supremacist doctrine, which, by the way, the white supremacists don't even like. Right, Tucker? You get the point. Telling us for years what a trash document it is, and now they wave it around. They only wave it around when they lie about it and try and sabotage a real constitutionalist, like the president, who complies with the Constitution. Which brings us now to the Monroe Doctrine. What in the world is the Monroe Doctrine? Look at the National Archives. Monroe Doctrine was articulated in President James Monroe's 7th annual message to Congress on December 2, 1823. The European powers, according to Monroe, were obligated to respect the Western Hemisphere as the United States' sphere of interest. He must have been a warmonger neocon. President James Monroe's 1823 annual message to Congress contained the Monroe Doctrine, which warned European powers not to interfere in the affairs of the Western Hemisphere. Now, the United States has always taken a particular interest in its closest neighbors, the nations of the Western Hemisphere. Equally understandably, expressions of this concern have not always been favorably regarded by other nations in the hemisphere. The Monroe Doctrine is best known, U.S. policy toward the Western Hemisphere, buried in a routine annual message delivered to Congress by Monroe, December 1823, that the United States would not tolerate further colonization or puppet monarchies of Europe. The doctrine was conceived to meet major concerns of the moment, but it became enshrined in U.S. foreign policy until John Kerry, who announced that it would be rejected. But the Monroe Doctrine has been invoked. It was invoked in 1865 when the U.S. government exerted diplomatic and military pressure in support of the Mexican President Juarez. And that enabled Juarez to lead a successful revolt against the Emperor Maximilian, who had been placed on the throne by the French government. Almost 40 years later, 1904, European creditors of a number of Latin American countries threatened armed invasion to collect debts. President Theodore Roosevelt promptly proclaimed the right of the United States to exercise, quote, an international police power, unquote, to curb such chronic wrongdoing in his so-called Roosevelt corollary, or extension of the Monroe Doctrine. You see, ladies and gentlemen, listen to these buffoons on TV today. They go into these Sunday shows, or they're interviewed on cable, or whatever the hell. It's just, you become more ignorant by the second. By the second. While the Monroe Doctrine's message was designed to keep European powers out of the Western Hemisphere, Roosevelt would strengthen its meaning to justify sending the United States into other countries of the Western Hemisphere. So he sent the U.S. Marines into Santo Domingo in 1904, Nicaragua in 1911, Haiti in 1915. To keep the Europeans out. Other Latin American nations viewed those interventions with misgiving. Well, so what? In 1962, the Monroe Doctrine was invoked when the Soviet Union began to build missile launching sites in Cuba. And with the support of the Organization of American States, President John Kennedy threw a naval and air quarantine around the island. And after several tense days, the Soviet Union agreed to withdraw the missiles and dismantle the sites. The United States dismantled several of its obsolete air and missile bases in Turkey to give Khrushchev the opportunity to cover face, but they ousted him anyway. The Monroe Doctrine. President Trump is instituting the Monroe Doctrine, or what he now calls the Donroe Doctrine, and I like that. The Donroe Doctrine. President Trump is abiding by the Constitution. But even more than the Constitution, more than all the legalese, more than all the debates, he's a liberator. You know, I was attacked, as always, in May or June when I said, yes, there should be regime change in Iran. Ooh, Levin supports regime change. You know, he supported Iraq, too. Everything's not Iraq. But this is where the hooligans go, with their slogans, with their propaganda. Every situation is different. And I still support regime change in Iran for our security. And it will also free tens of millions of human beings in Iran who are under the iron fist of an Islamo-Nazi police state that still is trying to build nuclear weapons and, in fact, is building ballistic missiles. A regime that's backed by communist China, communist North Korea, and fascistic Russia. A regime that is backed by Tucker Carlson and Bannon, bloated Bannon, and these other buffoons who claim to be America first when they're America last. A regime that effectively was backed by, in fact, funded by the Biden administration. Yes, I favor regime change, as I would have favored regime change during World War II. Regime change in order to protect the United States of America. Freedom and democracy. That's who we are. And I stand up tall and speak out loudly in defense of all of it. Because that's what America's all about. Forever wars. No, I don't favor forever wars. The enemy favors forever wars. And these buffoons in our country on the left and the woke right, they obviously favor forever wars too, because their appeasement sabotages us and our allies. It gives aid and comfort to the enemy. I'll be right back. If your credit card balance is freaking you out after all the holiday spending, I have something that can save you money right now. Cut your cell phone bill in half by switching to Pure Talk Saver Plan. Just $20 a month for unlimited talk, text, and 3 gigs of high-speed data on Pure Talk's super-fast nationwide 5G network. As a veteran-led company that cares about giving back to those who serve, if you're active or former military or a first responder, you'll save an additional 20% every single month. The easiest way to free up cash flow is to reduce your monthly recurring bills. Start with cutting overpriced wireless and switching to my wireless company. Go to puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and make the switch today in as little as 10 minutes. Again, talk, text, and data just $20 a month. That's puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Pure Talk is America's wireless company.
The Mike Levin Show. This is the home of the July 4th Americans. And you can call at 877-381-3811.
President Trump on Air Force One yesterday. Cut one, Mr. Producer, go.
You were criticizing regime change and nation building, the U.S. being involved in that. It seems obviously that your stance has changed on that. What led to that? Is the U.S. nation building now? Is that
this is a country that's on the other side of the world? This isn't a country like where you have to travel 24 hours in an airplane. This is Venezuela. It's in our area, the Donroe Doctrine.
So is that what you would say, that we're in the business of nation building?
No, we're in the business of having countries around us that are viable and successful, and where the oil is allowed to freely come out because that's good. It gets the prices down. That's good for our country. Now, we have a very sick neighbor. It's not a neighbor, but it's close to a neighbor, and that's Venezuela. It's very sick. Colombia is very sick, too, run by a sick man who likes making cocaine and selling it to the United States, and he's not going to be doing it very long, let me tell
you. He's unbelievable. Now, whatever Trump decides to do, that guy now has to be wetting in his Mal suit, I would think. Cut 2, Mr. Producer, go.
The next question is, who's in charge of Venezuela right now? Have you spoken to the newly sworn-in president there, Rodriguez? And what are your thoughts on the entire situation? You said the U.S. would run Venezuela.
We're dealing with the people. We're dealing with the people that just got sworn in. And don't ask me who's in charge, because I'll give you an answer and it'll be very controversial.
What does that mean?
We're in charge.
Have you spoken with her?
We're in charge.
Have you spoken with her?
No, I haven't, but other people have.
Do you want to?
Yeah, at the right time I will.
Did the U.S. give Delcy Rodriguez any guarantees in exchange for cooperating with your administration?
No, but she's cooperating.
Are you going to demand free and fair elections in the short term in Venezuela?
Well, it depends, what you're talking. We have to do one thing in Venezuela, bring it back. It's a dead country right now. It's a country that, frankly, we would have been, if I had lost the election, we would have been a dead country. We would have been Venezuela on steroids. Venezuela right now is a dead country. We have to bring it back, and we're going to have big investments by the oil companies to bring back the infrastructure. And the oil companies are ready to go. They're going to go in. They're going to rebuild the infrastructure. We built it to start off with many years ago. Yep. They took it away. You can't do that. You can't do that with me. They did it with other presidents.
That's what I mean. This guy, Trump, he's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Now let's talk about this acting president of Venezuela. Delcy Rodriguez, just as corrupt and crooked as Maduro. Marxist also. Delcy Rodriguez, the vice president of Venezuela, who's now serving as acting president. Ready for this? I think she's a fan of Carlson and that crowd. Accused Israel of orchestrating the U.S. operation that led to the capture of former leader Nicolas Maduro. You believe that, Mr. Producer? I think Jews make up like 0.002% of the world population, something like that. And the Israelis are over there in the Middle East, and somehow they orchestrated the overthrow of Maduro. This is sick. But you're dealing with brain rot. Brain rot. The phony influencers, brain rot. And by the way, I don't excuse Rogan either. Rogan platforms these nut jobs and all the rest of it. He can do better than this. He can do better than this. Speaking in a televised address alongside senior figures from Maduro's inner circle, she blamed the, quote, Zionists for the events surrounding his arrest, echoing familiar rhetoric long used by Venezuela's Chavista leadership, their communist leadership, to fault Israel and its allies for international pressure on the regime. Now, while we're there, these are the Jew haters. America haters are Jew haters. Jew haters are America haters. And she's coming up with the same BS. Let's see here, Mr. Producer. Let's listen to this one. Let's take a look at Carlson here. For now on, it's Comrade Carlson. He likes the communists. He likes the Islamists. It's America he hates. Cut 20 in 2017. This is 2017. Hello. 8 years ago. Carlson. Cut 20. Go.
We want to share what's an ominous story from Venezuela tonight. Like every other country that has adopted socialism, Venezuela has collapsed inevitably into dire poverty and chaos. Shortages there are universal. Inflation is now in the triple digits. And despite the world's largest oil reserves, that country can't even keep its lights on. Things are so bad that this very moment, the country is plunging into civil disorder as thousands of demonstrators clash with security forces of the president there, Nicolas Maduro. But there's another lesson in Venezuela besides the failure of socialism. In 2012, that country banned the private purchase of firearms and ammunition and launched a massive campaign to disarm the civilian population. That wasn't accidental. You can see where this is going. Faced with the demands that he relinquish power and hold free elections there, President Maduro has decided to unleash armed supporters, their guns weren't taken away, on his disarmed populace. On Monday, Maduro announced his plans to expand the country's civil militia from 100,000 to 500,000. Every member gets a gun. The intent is clear. If he and his cronies can't stay in power forever, they will do so with the force of arms, and the masses who have no guns don't stand a chance. Remember that the next time your liberal friends extol the virtues of a gun-free society.
Now, that's the Tucker Carlson you and I admired. Now the Carlson, who's a heap of stupidity. Cut 21, go.
Maduro, most people didn't know this, whatever his many faults, I wouldn't hire him as an economist, okay? But whatever his many faults, has the most socially conservative country probably in the hemisphere. So Venezuela is just a fact. I mean, I didn't make this up. I'm not in charge of Venezuela. Just noticing that Venezuela has banned pornography, banned abortion, banned gay marriage, banned sex changes, and banned usury. You don't have credit cards with 40% interest in Venezuela. I would personally become poorer to end abortion, voluntarily become poorer to end abortion in the United States. That's not a choice. Don't want to become poor, but I would because I care about it. Maybe you don't. Maybe you're offended that I do, but I care about it. Lots of people care about it. I don't think pornography is good. That really hurts people. You know, I don't think pretending that the sexes are the same is good. And you claimed that you didn't think it was good, but it turns out, quote, I don't care. Maduro's against Israel. Oh, okay.
Israel. First of all, he's rambling on like a drunk. Rambling on like a drunken Marxist. Israel? Seriously? This guy is such a Jew hater, it's not even funny. And it's worse than that. He's a Christian hater. And it's worse than that. He hates his own country. He's a mumbling buffoon. That's what he's turned into. I don't know what's happened to him over 8 years, and I don't much care. I've been spending months exposing him and his ilk because I don't want us to lose our youth. I don't want us to lose the next election, and I don't want us to lose the country because it's a 50-50 country right now, 52-48 Trump, 53-47. It's too close. And I don't want this country filled with Mondami types and neo-fascist types. We are constitutional conservatives. That's what we are. He's defending a man who stole the election, who has killed his opposition, who's imprisoned tens of thousands, who's unleashed, as he said in his first Carlson monologue, all the reasons he said. I just wanted you to know. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
If your credit card balance is freaking you out after all the holiday spending, I have something that can save you money right now. Cut your cell phone bill in half by switching to Pure Talk Saver Plan. Just $20 a month for unlimited talk, text, and 3 gigs of high-speed data on Pure Talk's super-fast nationwide 5G network. As a veteran-led company that cares about giving back to those who serve, if you're active or former military or a first responder, you'll save an additional 20% every single month. The easiest way to free up cash flow is to reduce your monthly recurring bills. Start with cutting overpriced wireless and switching to my wireless company. Go to puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and make the switch today in as little as 10 minutes. Again, talk, text, and data just $20 a month. That's puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Pure Talk is America's wireless company. Too much good stuff to do in a minute. When we come back, you got to hear some of this, folks. The hypocrites. The contradictions. I want you to hear from our great Secretary of Defense. They try to take out Hegseth because he is a great Secretary of Defense. These missions are carried out with him as, Secretary of War. You know, they should change it to Secretary of Kick Butt. But he's been fantastic, which is why they attack him. The more they attack, the better the person, you know. The more successful. This is why they attack Trump the way they attack him. Others who they don't attack because they're not doing anything. They're not doing anything well. And our great Secretary of State, who I got to talk to on Friday night before all this took place, and no, I wasn't read into anything, Marco Rubio. So we'll hear from both of them as well. The hypocrites and frauds and the good guys. We'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Welcome back, America. Mark Levin here. Excuse me, cholera. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. First, for your hearing enjoyment, we have Secretary Rubio dealing with Stephanopoulos, who is a fake fraud and phony Democrat operative, and always will be. I don't care. You can change his title, but you can't change him. And here he is on ABC, very weak. Cut 7, go.
Is it your position now that the Vice President, Delcy Rodriguez, is now the legitimate president of Venezuela?
Well, this is not about the legitimate president. We don't believe that this regime in place is legitimate via an election, and that's not just us. It's 60-something countries around the world that have taken that view as well, including the European Union. But we understand that there are people in Venezuela today who are the ones that can actually make changes. So, for example, when we want to send in the migrant flights, even though we never recognized the Maduro regime as legitimate, we had to deal with the authorities that controlled the airport. We had to deal with the people who had guns and the people who had control of the airports. We had to deal with them to achieve these objectives. That's different from recognizing their legitimacy. Ultimately, legitimacy for their system of government will come about through a period of transition and real elections, which they have not had. And by the way, it's the reason why Maduro is not just an indicted drug trafficker. He's illegitimate president. He was not the head of state. And I continue to see these media reports referring to him as President Maduro and the head of state. He was not the head of state. He was not the head. And it's not just us saying it. The Biden administration said it. And so did 60-something countries around the world hold that position.
Mm-hmm. And that was the position held by Schmucky Chucky Schumer in 2020. Listen to what he said 5 short years ago. Cut 8, go.
He brags about all these things he wants to do or is doing,
Trump,
but his actions belie his words. Maybe the best metaphor was his claim to bring democracy to Venezuela. There was a big policy there. It flopped. If the policy was working, Juan Guaido wouldn't be in the balcony here. He'd be in Venezuela. He'd be sitting in the president's palace, or at least waging a fight to win. He's here. And the president brags about his Venezuela policy? Give us a break. He hasn't brought an end to the Maduro regime. The Maduro regime is more powerful today and more entrenched today than it was when the president began.
That was 5 years ago. Now today, make that Sunday. Cut 9, go.
President Trump say that he intends for the United States to run Venezuela. It was reckless. It was dangerous. And looking at the president's demeanor, he didn't even seem to be aware of how dangerous and reckless it is. Let me be clear. Maduro is an illegitimate dictator, but launching military action without congressional authorization.
Stop. You know full well that's not required. Now, some people might think it's better policy-wise or politics. I don't care. They're accusing the president of violating the Constitution and the rule of law. He's violated nothing. And he's in the midst of liberating millions of people and eliminating a regime that was working with our enemies who have nuclear weapons and other weapons against the United States. Is it really that hard to understand? These people are so craven. They're so power hungry. Go ahead.
Plan for what comes next is reckless. Now, I was in the skiff on 3 different occasions.
Okay, thanks a lot. We heard enough of you. Heard enough of him. Here's Chris Murphy. This guy is among the worst of the worst. Among the worst of the worst. He looks like he's a ghost. I don't ever want to hear him be called white again. He is translucent. He's a translucent American. Very few of them, but he's one of them. But he's also translucently a saboteur of our own country. How do you flip from opposing Maduro and wanting him removed and blaming Trump for not removing him, and then Trump removes him and then attacking Trump? He didn't go to Congress. Tell me, have the Democrats in Congress agreed to pass the next budget? No. Have they agreed to reform health care? No. Did they open the borders to all of our enemies? Yes. Do I really need to go on? The party of Mondani? The party of AOC? The party of Bernie the Red Stalinist Sanders? The party of Jamie the Red Raskin? Seriously? They agree with Maduro, for God's sakes. Now here's Chris Murphy. Cut 11, go.
So over the past decade, Nicolas Maduro, the brutal dictator of Venezuela, has presided over a stunning collapse of the Venezuelan economy that has caused nearly 8 million Venezuelans to leave that country, most of which destined for the United States. Part of the reason why we saw 10,000 people showing up at the border every day last year, a number that the United States just can't handle with current resources because of the meltdown of the Venezuelan economy. And so it's no surprise that in the election that was held this week, Maduro clearly lost. The briefings that I've received today suggest that Maduro not only lost, he probably lost in a landslide and is attempting as we speak to steal the election. If he's successful, not only will Venezuela continue to spiral into political and economic chaos, but you will see more people come to the southern border. Maduro is now in a corner.
So the Democrats, the Marxists, the Islamists, listen to them. The neo-fascist woke right, listen to these people. It's sick. But here he is, the same Chris Murphy, on CNN yesterday. That was only a year ago. On CNN yesterday. Go.
There's no question that Maduro was a destabilizing force, not just in Venezuela, in the region. And there are people celebrating in the streets all over South America and Venezuelan expats abroad. So is it fair to say that there is some benefit in Maduro not being in power?
But what changes? I mean, you just heard Senator Cotton effectively not be able to explain who's running the country.
You know, this is so pathetic. They just removed the leader of a country. Regime change. And this guy's upset because we don't know exactly how this is all going to work out in terms of a new leader and who's going to run what. Isn't that outrageously stupid? And obviously purposefully partisan? But then Bash, to her credit, she gets credit every 1,000 interviews because she's awful. Listen to this. Cut 13, go.
In 2019, you wrote an op-ed and you called for Maduro to be gone. You said, let's get one thing straight. There should no longer be any debate about Maduro's lack of democratic legitimacy. The Trump administration is right to put restoring Venezuelan democracy at the center of our approach to this crisis. A return to a stable democracy is in the interest of the Venezuelan people and the United States and the hemisphere. we don't know what's going to happen with regard to the civilian leadership there. Tom Cotton was just here saying that he hopes that there are democratic elections. Isn't that what you want?
Well, the rest of that article was a criticism of President Trump's early moves to saber rattle around regime change.
What does that have to do with anything? What does that have to do with anything? You're a fraud and a phony and a punk, quite frankly. I mean, we should all be celebrating what's been done here by the President of the United States. All of us. Then there's a guy, Chris Van Hollen. He's a Marxist Islamist. His wife is a nut. May I say that? It's true. Look, if it wasn't true, I wouldn't say it. She's a radical kook. Has a lot of influence over this guy. Marilyn, thank you for sending this guy to the Senate. This hard... Isn't this the guy that went to... where did he go? El Salvador, Mr. Producer? Hung out with Garcia. They were swapping spit or something down there. This guy, these people are sick. Sick. Cut 14, go. Oh, by the way, this Margaret Brennan is a disaster. She's the worst. She's not only left, she's stupid. Like most of them, but particularly stupid. Go ahead.
On the question of war powers, does the president have the legal authority to do what he's doing?
No, he does not. I mean,
You're on the Appropriations Committee. You've got power. What can you do about it?
All right, stop. Stop. Listen to her. She's not armed with any information. You folks are armed with it now. The end of the first hour and the beginning of the second hour. This is why they hate me, in particular in conservative talk radio generally. Because I expose them for what they are. With facts, with history, with information, with knowledge. And they have an agenda. They're activists. They're ideologues. You're in the Appropriations Committee. You've got power. What can you do about it? Go ahead.
I worked with Senator Merkley already to offer a resolution in the United States Senate to cut off any U.S. taxpayer dollars to fund an attack against Venezuela. Republicans blocked us from doing it.
So stop. He's bragging about this. That he offered a resolution with another nut job from Oregon. Who was it? Let's see here. It was... What was the guy's name? If it's Markey, that's Massachusetts. I think he said Merkley. Yeah, it's Merkley. Oregon. Whack job. Hey, look, don't blame me. I offered a resolution to block funding for military action against Venezuela. The Republicans stopped me. Here's the problem. People who have suffered under these regimes are never interviewed by these Sunday shows. None of them. By these woke Reich, neo-fascist podcasters. Let me ask you a question. Has there been a Venezuelan who suffered under that regime and interviewed by Joe Rogan? Interviewed by Carlson? And the rest of the reprobates in that cabal? Yes or no? No. No. And so what do these Sunday shows? They interview politicians who don't agree with Trump. It's what they interview. How about the people suffering in Iran? Have they interviewed any of those people? No, it doesn't even occur to them. Doesn't even occur to them. Doesn't occur to them to interview a hostage or families that lost loved ones on October 7th. Doesn't even occur to them. Doesn't occur to them to interview any of the families that have lost children or other loved ones in this country from illegal aliens. Doesn't even occur to them. Now let's get Bernie Sanders, Holland. That's who we all want to hear from, right? The Washington Democrat Party, radical left-wing establishment. Whenever there's a problem, that's who we want to hear from, right? No, wrong. They all interview each other. Then you got this fraud rogue Khanna, who pretended to be a moderate. He's no moderate. He's a fraud and a fink. Cut 15, go.
What has struck you most about the events of really
wow,
less
what a
than
tough
20
question from Jen Psaki. A failed mouthpiece for a failed president and a failed administration. Hey, what has struck you most? Hey, that's a tough question. Folks, you can get a monkey to ask a question like that. Maybe even a hamster, for all I know. Go ahead.
Well, it's not just the lawlessness. Obviously, he flouted Congress and the Constitution.
Obviously, he flouted Congress and the Constitution. No, he didn't flout Congress and the Constitution. You moron. Oh, he's more. Go ahead.
International law, so much that France...
No, he didn't flout international law either. Here's another hate America firster. This buffoon went to the same law school I did, but apparently he banged his head against the wall going into one of the classes. Let's go on to the next moron. Now, let's take a little break first. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Now, the Venezuelan people, by the zillions who've escaped that police state regime, they are thrilled. They are celebrating. Why not interview them, for God's sakes? Chris Murphy? Ro Khanna? The hell? Listen to this. In Washington, D.C., hat tip Nicholas Valese. Cut 19, go.
This day is unbelievable. I mean, I'm 59, I'm maybe 99, and I'll be remembered this day because I thought it will never happen. What President Trump did today, oh my goodness, this is going to run for the books of history.
I'm just like, we are so very happy. Like, most of people doesn't understand what's happening. But since I was a little girl, like I was 6 years old when Chavez got into power. So I haven't been living any other reality on my country. So this is huge for us.
Really, it's one of the wonderful days for this year. And I'm really happy and grateful with Trump that he really do it. Because we were waiting like for a long time that this happened, but finally it's done.
I am very happy. Really, it's an amazing day for us.
Yes, we are really happy.
Venezuela libre! I love you. God bless you, Trump.
But the Sunday shows don't interview any of them. They don't interview any of the Iranians. They don't interview any of the Israelis. They don't interview the people who are free or safe, who are allied with us. They bring in these rotten, good-for-nothing Democrat political hacks. They bring them on TV. They bring them on the Sunday shows. They lie about the Constitution. They lie about the law. They lie about what they said a year before. Then on the internet, you've got these insane neo-fascist, woke, right, isolationist buffoons who are in bed with the enemy. You've got Marjorie Trader Greene. You've got Carlson. The whole damn list. That's all people hear. Them and them. Donald Trump is the great liberator. I told him the other night. In many ways, he reminds me of Andrew Jackson. Came under vicious attack. An election was stolen from him. In fact, his wife came under such horrible attack, she got very ill and she passed away. In other ways, he reminds me of Reagan, his boldness, his courageousness. And Newt Gingrich pointed that out last night on my show, on Fox. It's a really unique and stellar man and president. Too bad many people will appreciate him only after he leaves the presidency. And of course, the neo-fascist, woke right isolationists are now stabbing the president in the back. Because they're not us. They're not one of us. They may have been 5 years ago, but they're not today. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin, a proud conservative. No ifs, ands, or buts. Call in at 877-381-3811.
So we have this guy, Mondumi. This Islamist, Marxist, and definitely American-hating, Christian-hating, Jew-hating moron. And he's hitting the ground running. In 48 hours, 72 hours, he's already turning New York City upside down. They have the Muslim call to prayer there. If you haven't heard that, just start traveling around New York. Listen to this guy. Cut 25. Go.
So I guess this is Mamdani's New York now.
5 times a day. That's a story in Queens. 5 times a day. Enjoy. They're very tolerant, the Islamists. Very tolerant. We don't want to live and coexist side by side. We want to control and crush. I heard one of these imams say this online. He's not lying. Mondumi's New York City Chief Counsel, Ramzi Qassem, represented an al-Qaeda defendant, represented this guy Khalil, born in Syria, the worst of the worst. And he makes him the head lawyer of the city. Excuse me, corporate counsel. That's the head chief counsel. The head lawyer of the city. He's downgraded already the commissioner of the NYPD. Downgraded them. He already repealed an executive order signed previously to protect Jews. And he signed an order reversing their anti-BDS stance. So right out of the box, he's targeting Jews right out of the box. So the 30% stupid, liberal, left-wing, kook, Jewish people, 30%, 70% voted against him, but that 30%, you contributed to your own demise, you bastards. Don't you get it? But of course, they weren't the only ones, were they? No. Plenty of other faiths involved, too. Or no faith. Plenty. Here's Mondani's New York City Chief Counsel, Ramzi Qassem. In October of last year, just a few months ago, hattipmemory.org, the best site among sites, MEMRI.org. By the way, excuse me, cholera. Unless they're really informational like Memory is or newsworthy, I'm no longer mentioning websites, promoting them, giving them big audiences. Same with podcasters and others who don't reference this program and you, my audience. I'm not going to do it anymore, Mr. Producer. You agree? Yeah, that's it. No more. Believe it or not, I'm too nice. I'm just too nice. So here he is, Ramzi Qassem, October 2025, his new chief counsel, the lawyer that will lord over New York City. Go.
There's no shortage of models for us in our own communities. There's, of course, Sister Linda Sarsour. She's found her place to stand. She knows the path that she's on.
Yes, Sister Linda Sarsour, big-time Jew hater, big-time America hater, big-time Islamist, big-time Trump hater. She's sister. Sister. She's a sister. Go ahead.
Raj, who earlier so ably coaxed you out of your money, is another example for all of us. At a time when it would have been unthinkable to challenge the NYPD's Muslim surveillance program.
Muslim surveillance program. It wasn't a Muslim surveillance. See, these activists are such damn liars. If they got word that a particular mosque or an imam was radicalizing, promoting terrorism, yes, they would involve themselves in that, as they should. As they should. Go ahead.
First to raise his hand and to say, I'll do it. I hope that those of you who have not yet donated to an organization like CARE can do that tonight.
I've been warning you about CARE for 25 years. That this is a Hamas front group, that it is an Islamist radical group. When I started in radio, they would intimidate and threaten program directors and broadcast companies and hosts. I said, no, bring it on. And if you libel me, I will sue you, and I'll own everything you have, and I'll get access to all your contacts and donors. I still feel that way, of course. So that's his chief counsel. Now he's got a tenant director, a director of tenants. And her name is Sia Weaver. Sia Weaver. Here's what she said in February 2022 that drew Mandami the Kami's attention. Cut 24, go.
I think the reality is that for centuries we've really treated property as an individualized good and not a collective good, and we are going to transitioning to treating
Stop a second. How many people own a house? How many people own a house? Is that a collective good? Did the collective get you that house, or did you breaking your back every day and going to work get you that house? Saving money, being a responsible citizen, paying your taxes, getting educated. I don't necessarily mean going to college, learning a trade. Was that collective? Now, this is a completely alien and hostile ideology, this collective stuff. Collective means the dehumanization of you. You have a home, it's your property, you've earned it, you're proud of it, you keep it up. Nobody else does, you do it. Can't rely on the government. Can you imagine relying on the government? The government's filled with morons like this. They don't know their you-know-what from a you-know-what. They reject the Enlightenment right in front of you. They're rejecting the Enlightenment. They're rejecting the Declaration that's built on the Enlightenment as well as Judeo-Christian beliefs. They reject Judeo-Christian beliefs. They reject the Enlightenment. I wrote a whole book on it, on power, and I've explained this to you over and over again. This is what we're up against. Private property, for centuries, it's been viewed as an individual right, not a collective. Tell me, when you get up in the morning, is it a collective decision for you to get up in the morning and do your job? I just want people to understand what's going on here. These are dangerous, vicious ideologues. They defend Maduro, who slaughters people, imprisons people, tortures people. That's the collective. That's the warmth of communism, the warmth. The warmth. When you spit up your guts all over yourself, that's the warmth you feel. Go ahead.
A collective good and towards a model of shared equity will...
I don't know what shared equity means. What is shared equity? Shared equity means Cambodia 30 years ago, where they slaughtered 25% of the population. Where even if you were lowered to the point where you had to go into the rice fields, the rice paddies, with a basket, they needed to make sure that you took exactly the same amount as the other person. That's the shared equity. Slogans and phrases. Go ahead.
Differently, and it will mean that families, especially white families, but some POC families who are homeowners as well, are going to have a different relationship to property than the one that we currently have.
Ooh, a relationship with property that's different, Mr. Producer. She's a totalitarian. Folks, this is Maoism, Leninism, Marxism, Castroism, call it whatever you want. This is what they elected in New York City. Bigots, Jew haters, Christian haters, American haters, attacking our founding, the Enlightenment, the Judeo-Christian value system. This is who they elected. And by the way, not that different from the neo-fascist woke right. You know, the people in Iran are rising up. They're being killed. They're rising up. Our great president has promised to help them if they keep killing them, and I'm sure he will, because he's a man of his word. And yes, I favor regime change over there, and I always have. Ooh. Ooh. Yes, it's the right thing to do for us and others. But notice they all stand on the same side. How's this in America's interests? Folks, isolationism is a death ideology, and these people are a death cult. These enemies are scheming against us. They're scheming against our allies. Notice they don't target each other. Fascists don't target fascists, and communists don't target communists. Islamists. I call it the Marxist Islamist fusion. Now I think I should call it the Marxist Islamist fascist fusion, given the neo-Nazis on the right. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
So Tim Walz has announced he's not running for re-election. Why? Because you get slaughtered. That's why. The guy, you know, when you overlook what might be the biggest scandal in American history, financial scandal anyway, I think based on what he did, they ought to really consider criminal charges against him. I really do. I'm not saying they're there. I'm saying look at it. Hey, can a governor of Minnesota remain as governor if he's in prison, Mr. Perdue? I'm just curious. I really feel this way about this guy. Such a disaster. But I wanted to save the best for last. In 1989, Joe Biden, you remember him. Just a short clip. We need to go after the drug lords where they live. Really, Joe? Cut 29, go.
For the first time, we are fighting and losing a war on our own soil. Let's go after the drug lords where they live. With an international strike force. There must be no safe haven for these narco-terrorists, and they must know it.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't give our great Secretary of War a little salute. From Saturday night's press conference. Cut 3, go.
Words can barely capture the bravery and the power and the precision of this historic operation. A massive joint military and law enforcement raid flawlessly executed by the greatest Americans our country has to offer. American warriors are second to none, the best in the world and the best of our country. What all of us witnessed last night was sheer guts and grit, gallantry and glory of the American warrior. I'm simply humbled by such men, and I tip my hat to our chairman, Dan Raisin Kane, and all those Americans who stood watch last night. Our warriors are the elite of America, and again, President Trump has your back. No other country on planet Earth, and it's not even close, could pull this kind of operation off. And no other president has ever shown this kind of leadership, courage, and resolve, the most powerful combination the world has ever seen. As the president said, our adversaries remain on notice. America can project our will anywhere, anytime. The coordination, the stealth, the lethality, the precision, the very long arm of American justice, all on full display in the middle of the night.
Mm-hmm. Now you compare Hegseth to Milley, Trump to Biden, Rubio to, what the hell was the other guy's name? I don't remember anymore. Put it out of my head. Doesn't matter. Most of all, you compare the withdrawal from Afghanistan to what the Trump administration has been doing militarily. Blinken, that's right. Compare them. Compare the disaster that was the withdrawal from Afghanistan and sent all the wrong messages to all the enemies of the United States, with Venezuela, with Iran. More to come. The man's only been president his second term for a little over a year. Less than a year. Ladies, not a little over a year. No, less than a year. Hey, I salute all you heroes out there. Thank you. We'll continue tomorrow. This was our inaugural show for 2026. We're excited about the future and all the rest. Be well and God bless.